this session we're going high tech. You'd probably say, thank God, we've had enough of hand tools. So what we're doing now, we're going into power tools, and as you can see, they all have to have a lead because they run off 240 volts here in Australia, and they make a lot of difference in time saving and in accurate workmanship. Now this drop saw here is the electric version of the miter saw that still has to be worked by hand. So it comes in a stacking position, so you just release the knob at the back and it comes up spring loaded. Now it has a guard on it which folds back as soon as I start cutting. I'll just do a quick demo on the cut, and I can keep my glasses on. Beautiful. I need my daily hit. So as you can see, very accurate cut and very quick. So when you're out on site and you need to cut studs or plates, top and bottom plates for a house frame, this does a very good job. Now when you're doing pine as a softwood, you only need a blade that has a limited amount of teeth because you don't need all that cutting action. So this blade only has 16 teeth, this one has 20, and this one has 40. So the 40 blade gives you very accurate cut, very clean cut when you're building furniture. But if you're house framing, just a blade like this with a limited amount of teeth is good enough to do the job, because you don't want the saw to work too hard through just a mere piece of softwood. Unless you're using hardwood to build your house, like I mentioned before, some softwoods are actually harder than hardwood. Now, I know that sounds a bit ironic, but yes, for example, the cypress pine can be very hard in comparison to other timbers that are classified as hardwoods. So you might want to change your blade, and then you get more cutting action out of the 20 teeth, that one, or you might want to go all the way to the 40 tooth, that one, which gives you a nice, clean, accurate cut. Now I respect my tools because they work for me, and I keep them clean and sharp, and they deserve my respect because they do a lot of work for me. Now power tools, they demand respect because there is a lot of torque or movement still in the machine even though you've switched it off. And if you use a power tool disrespectfully, you could get hurt. And I've seen fingers gone from some people that have disrespected their tools. Another thing you want on site is one of these. First aid kit, absolute must when you're working with power tools, because I've seen some pretty bad injuries that cause a lot of bleeding, and you want to stop that as soon as you can. So when you're working with power tools, they need to be used specifically for what they have been designed to do, not try and use it for something else. Now I just showed you that I made a crosscut that way at right angles to the blade. Now I warn you, do not try and do this. Do not rip along the edge, right, along the grain, because it can pull the job straight in, and your fingers as well. Now there is a safety zone on this table which gives you an indication of where you keep your fingers. So don't bring them too close to the job and try and cut a small job like this, because you might be thumbless one day. So you've got to use it very carefully and respectfully, because it will bite, and it'll bite hard. Now this table here, if I undo the knobs, I can swivel it again to 45, and the other way to 45, and again to 22.5. But this one here, it gives me the option of any degree from 0 to 45. So if I need a 30-degree angle, I can sit it there and tighten the plate down and then make my cut at 30 degrees. And if I want the same in the opposite direction, obviously the same thing over here, 30 degrees, lock it in. I can make my cut and keep my fingers well and truly out of the way. So if you've got a short piece, that's too close. Keep it within the safety zone of about 6 inches or 120, 150 mil, so you don't lose any fingers or hurt yourself, because these things here, they can do that very successfully. Now, if you're using the saw, and as you cut, the guard doesn't go up, as you can see, it swivels up to protect your fingers. Fix it before you go on. And always remember to unplug it before you do any maintenance on power tools. Now this also can be screwed to the bench, so if you are lucky enough to have a bench in a workshop at home, you can screw this down, and whenever you need to cut something, you can go straight to the workstation, do your thing, and then you won't have to move it around all the time. Of course, if you need it outside, you're doing some work outside the garage or in the house, you can unbolt it and take it inside the house and fix it to a bench or a kitchen top or something there. So this is a very handy tool to have, and when you carry it, you lock it back in and then move it away. Now, I've shown you in the ripsaw it has 4 teeth per inch. That's how it's classified. It's always in imperial measurements, 4 teeth per inch. And the little dovetail saw has got 20 teeth per inch. So that's the same principle in power saws. You use the one that has the optimum amount of teeth. Now this power saw here, as you can see, I've taken the blade out, but the same principle applies with the guard. If that doesn't come up as you force it into the material, don't do it. Get it fixed, replace the spring if it's broken, which sends it back. Now on these tools, you will have a left-handed thread. So if you try to change a blade and you're going clockwise, you will just only tighten it. Another thing too, when you're changing a blade, I'm going to show it this way. Right, you tuck it under and make sure that the blade goes upwards. If you turn it around and it goes the other way, right, that is incorrect, because the saw blade goes clockwise, hence the thread being anti-clockwise, otherwise it'll undo itself. So make sure when you change blades, whatever choice you have, put it back on. Alright. Lock it in. And then tighten it with a shifter or a spanner. Not too tightly, because you might have to change the blade again. So you can see how the blade rotates? It comes up this way. So it goes the opposite way of the thread. So when you force it into the material, that guard should come up to the cut, and when you go through the cut and you finish it, it'll go back down. Alright, I might just give you a demo here. Just so you can see how the blade actually right. Glasses on. You don't know what fragments will come off your job. Another thing too, you would have noticed that I didn't pull the saw straight out of the cut when I'm finished. What I did, I let the machine stop, and when the machine has stopped, it's safe to pull out. Because if you pull it out and you get your fingers anywhere near it, even though the guard's down, you can hurt yourself, and it also destroys the cut if you pull the blade out too quickly and you lose your traction on where you're supposed to be. So there's the power saw. They come in different sizes. This is my baby here. I've got a bigger one which has a blade that big, and it can cut sleeper logs, all sorts of things at ease. Now, with power tools, you not only need to respect them, but you need to show them who's boss. If you're not confident in using it because you haven't been trained, or you're a bit wary about the danger involved, don't use it until you become confident and you show it what to do. Don't let it tell you what to do. So if you're not sure with a big saw, because the blade's bigger, the motor's more powerful, leave it alone until you become familiar with it by doing a few practice cuts, and then you can go ahead with it without the fear of getting hurt. Now another saw, which is very handy, particularly if you're cutting curves. It has a reciprocating blade on it, which again cuts upward, and you can go around corners. I showed you on my little side table that I built. The back of it had a curve in it, and we used this as a machine, and we used the coping saw just to get the hand skills right. So again, respect the tool, because if you put it down, right, and the motor still goes, it could punch you. So if you're doing this and you reach over, it could punch you right in the wrist. So always wait for the machine to stop, because it will hurt you. So that's the main issue on power tools. Know how they work. Keep the blade sharp and use the correct one. This blade will come out. If I undo it, I'll have to unplug it first. It's unplugged now. What I need to do here, undo the screws. And I can take the blade out, which has to have a certain shape to it to fit this particular model. So when you put it back in, right, make sure it goes back in and sits exactly against the tool rest there. And the tool rest is there for the simple reason that when you push the blade into the job, push the blade into the job, it'll stop the blade from flexing backwards and breaking. It'll shatter if you put too much pressure on it. Again, blades can be changed for small teeth. So if you're doing plywood, where you don't want the veneer to rip apart, or if you're using pine, you can have big teeth because it'll go through it a lot smoother. Also, when you're using power tools, don't push it, because if it takes too much effort to make a cut like this, then the blade's probably dull and needs to be changed. Because like I said, with hand tools, blunt tools can be very dangerous if not used correctly. So change the blade with other hand tools, sharpen the blades, and then you can work safely and efficiently with the least amount of injury. So on the job site, power saws are usually used to cut incidental jobs, whereas the drop saw is used for studs, because at the end of the workbench you can have a stop, and every stud has to be the same length, unless you change walls or different locations. So these are very good to have. They save a lot of time. Actually, I think Noah would have been grateful to have these. It wouldn't have taken him 100 years to build that ark. So these are very good to have. Keep them clean, keep them sharp, and they will last you a lifetime. Unless, of course, the points need changing, which are just the little carbons inside the motor. Alright, so we've covered sawing with power tools, the drop saw, the jigsaw. These also come in bigger sizes. So if you've got heavy work, you can have a machine that is stronger and it will do the job a lot more efficiently.